Welcome back, everybody. Danny Lim here, joined by Sean Miller, head of Overwatch League, and we have two very special guests. We have Bird and Lucas from the Overwatch dev team. How are you guys doing?
Doing great.
Awesome.
Awesome. All right. Can you guys give us a quick introduction of what you guys do?
Yeah, so I'm a senior environment artist on the Overwatch team, partially responsible for the new Queen Street map. Yeah, Toronto, yeah!
Let's go.
Yeah. So yeah, pretty much when you look at the game, anything that isn't like a character or visual effect or UI element, like all the stuff in the environment, that's kind of what I'm responsible for.
That's incredible. How about you, Bird?
Really awesome.
And yeah, so I'm Bird, and I'm the lead character art outsourcing supervisor. I've been responsible for a lot of the skins that you guys have probably played with. And most recently, I was lucky enough to get to build the new character, the first Canadian hero, Sojourn.
Woo! Woo! All right, you guys have done so many great stuff, but we're gonna focus on Sojourn and New Queen Street. So I'm sure there's a lot of questions. Sean, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, thank you guys again so much for coming. So Lucas, I want to throw one at you. What inspired you to create the Toronto map? Like, what were the things that led up to it?
Yeah, so when I joined the team, I found out that Toronto was one of the potential maps that we were going to make. And having lived in Toronto for 5 years, I was really stoked on it. To show up on the team and to be able to bring some of my own personal experience to it, to take a city that I knew very, very well and kind of Overwatchify it was super awesome. So when we have ideas for maps, not all of them come to fruition. So part of what I did was I just got everyone stoked on it. I was just like, hey, what are the cool things we can do? What are the big landmarks, right? And then what are the personal touches that we can add and make it an authentic experience? And that's actually how I met Bird here was, just asking around on the team, who's Canadian or who has spent time in Canada.
And
there were a lot of us. There were a lot of people who Toronto was very important to them. And we really just wanted to do a good job of representing the city in a way that was really cool, right? Got a lot of those landmarks in, but some of those subtle details as well, while not making it feel too much like a theme park,
Right. I mean, and also talking about the map. So I heard that, the original concept of New Queen Street was sort of drastically different from what it is currently right now. I heard that it was a lot sort of darker and also it was more cyberpunk-esque. So how did that happen? And also, why did you guys decide to pivot away from that?
Yeah, so when working on maps, we kind of go in a lot of different directions early on in the concept phase. And one of those directions was more cyberpunk and dark and, more metals. And, we were looking at it and we just kept thinking, like, is this how we want to represent the city? Is this what we actually want in the game? And we pivoted away mainly because it just didn't really represent the bright, optimistic future of Overwatch in the way that we wanted to.
Right.
Looking around, we really wanted to get more kind of traditional architecture melded in with like some more of the larger glass structures, kind of have more of what Toronto is now, just kind of leveled up in different ways.
I mean, that makes a ton of sense because I think what so many of us love about Overwatch is the bright, hopeful, optimistic future that it portrays. So were there things, though, that you wanted to put in the map that necessarily didn't make it?
Yeah, so one of the big things that we tried about halfway through was at some point there was a giant futuristic glass dome over the center of the map, and that just didn't really work out very well. So, after experimenting with that a lot in both 2D and 3D, we decided to just kind of double down on the elements that we really knew would work and would fit the city. We really wanted to represent, the different cultures and diversity that is within Toronto. And one of the big ways we did that was through all of the different restaurants, right? Like food brings people together. So that was really cool. We got in a bunch of other smaller details. If you're in the subway spawn room, if you listen closely, you'll actually hear the sound of the subway doors closing in that same chime, right? The little things along with the big things, I think my favorite, or one of the favorites, is the curling rink. That just happened. We were like, oh, what would be a cool spawn room? And we just started riffing on that. Got the curling rink in there, the Toronto Raccoons, right? And then I think one of my smallest favorite details is the trash cans, right? Like, you know, it's such a small thing, but
That is true.
they're very representative of different cities. The trash cans, the
Across all the maps too. I feel like all the trash cans are so unique.
no, they're really important, and these are the things you think about as an environment artist. You're looking around at the smaller details as well as very large things. And I'm also really, you know, stoked on the prosthetic shop in the map. It really ties into, you know, our heroes, and you know that. You know, in this future, these prosthetics are available to not just people who need them, but also people who can use them to upgrade their lives in different ways. So I think Bird can talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah. Bert, can you give us more insight on how Sojourn ties into the map, talking about prosthetics and everything?
Yeah, so, I mean, Sojourn as a concept had existed for a long time. We've had these sketches, you know, and again, she was Canadian right from the get-go, you know. I mean, you can see, like, in that original sketch, like, she's got the Canadian flag on the side. But it was one of those things where it was almost kind of serendipitous. We knew she had a lot of backstory. We knew that we wanted to go to Toronto. There's a lot of upcoming content. There's a lot of cool stuff that we're going to see in the near future as we learn a lot more about Sojourn. But, you know, Sojourn herself, you know, she's one of those characters who she's embraced the fact that she can be enhanced. You know, she's very much highly cybernetic, you know, and you can see that in the fact that, you know, the way she's built.
That's awesome, and I think one of the things that we see amongst those prosthetics, their cybernetics, must have been very challenging for you guys to really pull that off to make it real. So, I mean, what was that like? What were other challenges that you dealt with as you brought her to life?
Yeah, you know, as a character, you know, every one of our heroes kind of has its own challenges, you know. And for myself, you know, as I'm working on trying to figure out how to put all these pieces in here, if you look close, you can see, right, she's got jets in her calves, she's got jets in her knees, her elbows. That arm, I can't tell you what a challenge it is to, you know, we want her to look strong and feminine, but she also has to pack a whole lot of gun inside that forearm, and trying to get all that stuff in there, there's a little bit of magic to try to get it all in there. But again, you know, the end result, you know, as you guys have kind of seen over the last couple of days, I think is pretty cool.
It definitely is cool. And, you know, I also think Sojourn her alt is one of, like, my favorite things about Sojourn. And I heard that Sojourn's alt sort of changed while in development. It wasn't the overclock that we know right now. So can you tell us a little bit about that process?
Yeah, so it's always really fun, like in the early stages of coming up with heroes and the way they play. Well, one of the things we do is we block these characters out and we build kind of a rough version that the designers can go in and try a bunch of stuff. And at the same time, we've got concept coming in and doing these cool drawings, right? So we had these really awesome drawings where she is standing, she's planted in the ground, and she's firing off this huge blast. Right, and we were like, okay, wouldn't that be awesome, you know, to have this huge laser shot, and it's going to go through everything, right? Like that was the fantasy. And what ended up happening was you had somebody who would park it right on the other side of the map, and they would let loose this thing, and you'd be standing on the other side of the map. You can't see anybody, you can't engage with anybody, and you just get blown away. It was not the fun that we had hoped, you know, that we set out to do. And, you know, and it made us kind of take a step back, and we said, you know what, like, we were really trying to fulfill that idea of that rail character, right, that you know, rail style gameplay, and we were like, you know, and we'd given it a little bit of twist already in the way, you know, like it would build up to the rail shot, but then we're like, well, what if, you know, she powers up, and then, you know, you let loose, and you're like, boom, headshot, 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 you know, and that became really satisfying.
I don't know if you saw a stage ago, Houston Outlaws, there's a player named Merritt with the Sojourn. He got a 3K collateral.
Yep.
I think that was one of the sickest moments.
Absolutely ridiculous.
That was crazy.
I mean, it's so satisfying. But I think the most important question that we have to ask you guys today is it true that Sojourn has a pet corgi?
Yes, that is a fact. I will confirm it right here. She has a pet corgi named Murphy, who has a
Corgi lovers? Anybody?
She has a penchant for croissants, and maybe enhanced in his own ways.
Enhanced in his own ways.
So yes.
Okay. I have an even more important question. Could we play that corgi as is he a playable character?
God. Here we go.
Sometime soon in the future. I mean, we have a hamster in a machine that rolls around.
Look, you can't put me on the spot like that. I won't confirm or deny anything. So, I'm gonna say it's highly unlikely. I'm sorry.
Highly unlikely.
Sorry to say.
But it's not a 0% chance.
So there's always a chance.
There's always a chance.
a chance.
All right. Before I let you guys know, I do have one more question. So, how does it feel to sort of see all of your creations come to life, and pro players being up on the stage, playing in Toronto map, and using Sojourn, and also seeing all these beautiful people here enjoying your creation?
It is absolutely surreal. I mean, the past couple of years have been kind of isolating, and game development, even during normal times, you're very close to your chest. You're very closed in, isolated, right? And especially, the last 2 years were crazy, right? So to come here to see the map and the heroes on the big screen, all these people here enjoying it, Toronto fans in Toronto, watching the Toronto team on the Toronto map, like
the Toronto character.
What else
Let's
could you
go.
want, right? It's amazing. And I'm just super happy to be here.
Yeah, and I just want to echo it. That like you say, surreal is probably the best way to put it. Again, we toil away, and you forget the number of people that you impact with these things that you do, and it's been super exciting. Like, again, Sojourn we were so closely involved in this character for so long, and to get to see the light, come out here, get to celebrate that with the Toronto fans, see what the fans or what the players are able to do with these things. Again, things that I will never be able to do in the way they play these characters. Absolutely surreal. So I want to say thank you to you guys. I want to say thank you to the fans. Thank you to everybody here for having us up. So appreciate it.
Thank you.
Guys, let's give it up for Lucas and Bert one more time.
Woo!
Thank you guys so much for everything that you guys do. And of course, Sean, thank you for joining me. That's all we have down here, so let's send things back to Puckett.